Hello, I'm Bright from Bwave ICT and I welcome you to this video. Today we would be looking at this video today would tell us everything you need to know to get started with the shell as a complete beginner. So if you've never heard about the shell before, or this is your first time hearing it, you don't know what it is, you don't know how to interact with it, this video is going to teach you everything you need to know to get started with shell. So after this video, you are going to be able to successfully navigate your shell very, very well. All right, so let's get started right away. So the first question that comes to mind when we talk about shell is to even ask, what is the shell? So simply put, shell is a program that takes command from the keyboard and gives them to the operating system to perform. So basically, we have two ways to navigate our system, and one of them is the graphical user interface, which we are very, very familiar with. And that's what most of us use to give commands or input commands to our operating system. But there is another interface where we can give commands and inputs to our operating system, and that is known as the command line interface. And now the shell helps us to interact with our command line interface and give commands to our operating system. So this is just like the basic definition, the simplest definition we can get for the shell. So the shell would enable us to do a lot of things with the command line. And if we are going to talk about shell, then it has to do with the command line. What is the command line? How do we access the command line? Well, we do that by using what we call a terminal. So a terminal, it's a program that helps us open a window and lets you interact with the shell. So the terminal helps us to interact with the shell. And so the terminal gives us access to our command line interface where we can interact with the shell. So how do we start this terminal? Well, even if you're using Windows or any other device, I think there's an inbuilt terminal. But in my case, I'm going to be using the Ubuntu terminal. In case you don't have Ubuntu for Windows or any other operating system you're using, you could check my video on Emacs. There, I explain how to download and install Ubuntu, and you'll get started with us. So the first thing I'm going to do now to talk about the shell is to open the terminal. When we open the terminal, this is what it looks like. This is the terminal. We should see a shell prompt when we open a terminal that contains our username and the name of the machine we are using. So what we are saying is this is my username, Bwave here, and the name of the machine I'm using. It should also be followed by a $sign. And this is what you should see when you open a terminal. If you see this is excellent. Now you can go ahead to test out what you have, to test if your keyboard is actually responding and can give inputs to this terminal. So you could write a bunch of random things, and you could see I just wrote random things here, and then press enter. Once you hit enter, you should see this error message that says command not found. Well, if you see this, then everything is working well. So this is the command line, and everything we do here have specific commands for them. We cannot just write random things. It will throw an error saying command not found. And this is why we need to learn how to navigate our way through the shell. So this video is going to talk about the shell navigation and all the basic commands we need to know to get started as beginners. Now, there are some things that we can do with the shell, and there are some basic commands that we can do. First of all, if I want this last text I wrote here to appear down here, I could simply use the arrow up key, and you can see how the exact last info we just wrote is appearing here too. If I press enter again, it would show me another command not found because this is not a recognized command. Now, if I press the arrow down key, you see how that command disappears. And so now there are other things we can do. We can use the arrow left and right key to move line by line in our terminal. So this command line interface allows us to use our keyboards to input commands. Well, our mouse can also be important, but most times we use our keyboards to input commands. Different commands perform various tasks. So next up, we are going to be looking at the various commands we can perform. But before that, let's talk about something really important. In the shell navigation here, if you see your username followed by the name of the machine you're using and then a $sign, then you're doing the correct thing. But if you see something like this, roots, rather than your username, you saw roots here and then the name of the machine you're using, and then you're seeing a hash instead of the $sign, then this means that you are operating as a super user in the shell. What this means is that you are operating as an administrator and you have all administrative privileges. Well, this could be a good thing, but it could also be a really dangerous thing because any changes you make from this command line interface cannot be reverted. And so, unless necessary, you do not want to find yourself operating as a super user, saying this hash sign here. So I'm going to leave my super user mode and operate as a regular user in the shell. All right, so that's just a quick caution there. And so let's get straight to the commands, the various commands we can use within the shell. Now, there are a lot of commands we can use in the shell and in our terminals. We may not remember all of them and all their functions. And even if you do remember all of them, it may be difficult to remember all their functions. So now we'll be looking at the most important command we have to know and remember. And that is the man command. Man and then name of the command. So what does this man do here? The man command will show us how to use different kind of commands. So all we have to do is to type man here and then the name of the command. So later on your own, when you want to, maybe you don't know what the command arrow aim does, but you've been hearing of arrow aim dash arrow, but you don't know what this command does. All you have to do is to press enter. And then you can see the screen that appears here. It says user commands. And then it gives the name arrow aim, remove files or directories. So you see that the man command actually helps you to know the name of the command, the description of the command. Now the description says this manual page documents the GNU version of AROM. AROM removes each specified file. By default, it does not remove directory. Now you can see the detailed explanation of this command and what it does. How did we get here? Simply use the man command. And if you want to quit after reading the description of the command and how to use the command here, to quit, you simply press Q on your keyboard. and will quit. So once again, the most important command you can always use at any time to remember or to know any specific command you want is the man command. Just man there and then the command name. You type any command name you know, it will tell you the exact work of that command. And so with this, you can be able to remember anything without having to cram this long list of commands. So this is the most important command. And now let's look at some other commands. Okay, so assuming we want to change from a regular user here to get all administrative privileges from our terminal, how do we do that? What command are we going to use? The command is sudo space su. This command turns us to a super user. So if I press enter now, you can see I've become a super user and I'm at the roots here. And you can see this hash sign. I earlier said this is beneficial sometimes when you want to get all administrative privileges. Just like in your normal graphical user interface, sometimes if you're not running as an administrator, there are limited things you can do. You cannot modify or delete some files. In the same way, in our command line interface, if you are not running as an administrator, there are some things you cannot do. However, most of the things you would be able to perform them. And so most of the times you do not need to be a super user because any changes you make here is permanent. If you mistakenly delete a file here, it is deleted out of your system permanently. But to get to your super user mode, this is the command sudo su. Once again, it is not so necessary at all times. Now, if I want to exit from this super user command, or I have some other commands running and I want to kill them, all I have to do is to press Ctrl D on my keyboard. So when you have a command running and you want to kill it, or you want to exit from your super user mode, all you have to do is to press Ctrl D. Pressing Ctrl D, you can see I've exited from the super user mode and I'm back to a regular user on my terminal. So this is an important command. The first to get into your super user mode is sudo su, and then to exit from it or to kill any other command you're currently running, Control. Now I want to list out the directories, to list out everything I have here. I want to see what I have on my system or the current place I am. All I have to do is to press ls on my keyboard. If I type ls on my keyboard and press enter, you can see the directories I have here on my system. Now, this blue indicates folders or directories. So anywhere you hear directory, it simply means folder. This blue writings here indicates that these are folders, while the white ones indicates that these are files. So hello is a file, tutorial is a file, but these ones are folders. So to list out what we have, to see what I have here, all I have to do is ls. Now, if I want to change a directory or go to a specific directory, that is, go to a specific folder on my desktop, what I'll have to do is to use the command cd. Now, this command cd means change directory. By using this command cd, I can be able to go to a specific directory. So what directory do I want to go to? Let's say I want to change my directory to roots. All I have to do is to type cd and then roots and press enter. And you can see it here. If I do not have any file or directory, it's going to give me an error message. So obviously, when we listed what we had here in our desktop, we had these folders and these files. Root was not part of the folder or file we had here. And so when I cd into root, it gave me error. So let me cd into something I have here, and I'm going to cd into this directory. And when I press enter, you can see I do not have the $sign here again. I have a / and then the name of the directory. So what has happened here is that I've been able to change my directory from home here and into this folder. So once again, to change a directory in the shell navigation process is to simply type cd. cd helps us to change our directory. Now, there are some other things we can do. If I want to go back to my previous directory, if I want to go back from my graphical user interface, which most of us are used to, I just come here and click on the cancel key, or to the left and click on the back key. But here, to go back, we are simply going to cd again and then // and this will take us one directory backward. So what this command simply means, cd here means change directory, and then we are going one directory backward. So if I press enter now, you can see I'm back to home where I originally was. So I change directory into this folder, and then I change directory out of this folder. So anytime you want to leave a directory, all you have to do is cd and then / backward. Now, let's see another important command in our shell navigation process. And this command is actually to clear. So if you look at what I have on my screen now, you can see this whole command line interface. My terminal is filled up with a lot of commands, and I have to actually scroll up and down. But this is not entirely nice. So how do I clear this whole place? Well, all I have to do is to come here and then type on my terminal clear. You can see it down here. So by simply typing clear and pressing enter, you can see, oh, my screen has been cleared. My screen is now free and I can perform any tasks I want to do comfortably. And so if I want to clear, if you have your screen filled up and you want to clear, the command once again is to clear, clear. Just type clear on your terminal and then on your keyboard and then press enter. It's going to clear everything. Now, if I want to go back to a previous command I've typed, if I want to go back to a previous command, rather than retyping it, I can simply use my arrow up key. So to go back to a previous command, you can use your arrow up key. And you see the last command I wrote here was clear. If I press the arrow up key again on my keyboard, I can see various commands I've written. To list out the directories, ls, I can see it here. Now to cd into a particular file or folder, to cd into a particular directory, that is folder, you can see it here, cd and then the name of the folder. Now, so all the commands I've previously typed, just using my arrow up key, I can access all of them. And using my arrow down key, I can go back. So you want to play around with this, your arrow up key and then your arrow down key. you surely want to play around with this so that you master their usage. Now, there are some other commands that are very, very important. For example, we've talked about how to change directory. We've talked about how to clear our terminal. We've talked about how to list what we have. Now, how do we create a file? There are various ways to create a file. One way to create a file is to use the touch command. TUCH here, touch, and then create the name of the file. So if the name of the file I want to create is called bright, I'll just touch bright and then press enter. Once you press the enter key and you see no error at all, it's probably a sign that you did the right thing. So how do I check if this file called bright has actually been created? All I have to do is to list out what I have here. So pressing LS again on my keyboard, enter, and you can see we have this file called bright, which wasn't previously here. So look at the files we have: hello, bright, and then tutorial. And then we have some folders here, like this system engineering 1 and system engineering here. So this is how to create a file. Now, assuming I want to create a folder, I want to create a folder. How do I create a folder? Well, to create a folder, I'm going to use the command mkdir. Remember, folders are known as directory in the shell. So this command mkdir simply stands for make directory. And then after typing this command, I'm going to input the name of the directory I want to create. So for example, I want to create a folder called Bwave. All I have to do is to type the name of the folder after typing my mkdir. So what we have here is mkdir, which stands for make directory, and then the name of the directory itself, which is Bwave. If I press enter and I did not see any error, it means I've done the right thing. Now, if I list out what I have here using the ls command, I'm going to see my folder called Bwave. So just take note, previously we don't have any folder called Bwaves. We have only 2 folders. And I explained before that the color of a folder is actually blue, while files are represented by this white color here. So if I list what I have using the ls command, you can see I have a new folder called Bwave here. And so if you want to create a file, you use the touch command. And then if you want to create a folder, you use the mkdir command. Now, I want to delete a folder. How do I delete a folder in the shell? Now, this is another important thing that you need to know how to do, how to delete a folder. To delete a folder and to delete a file are slightly different. Remember, to delete a folder, we use the mk. To make a folder, or to create a folder, we use the mkdir command. And to delete a folder, we have to use the rmdir command. So if I use the rmdir command, I could simply press B here and Bwave, the name of the folder I want to delete. This command is going to delete the folder called Bwave. So let's try that. I'm going to press enter and you can see I have no errors whatsoever. If I list out what I have, you would see there is no Bwave anymore. That is because I've deleted my Bwave directory using the rmdir. So the rmdir stands for remove directory. Now there are a couple of other things we can do apart from to create a directory and to remove a directory or to create a file. But let's see how we can remove a file first. So I've removed the folder Bwave. Let me remove the file called Bright. So I'll do that simply by using the arrow M command. Now dir stands for directory. And so you cannot use dir command when you are dealing with files. You use it only when you are dealing with directories or folders. So if I want to remove the file Bright, all I have to do is arrow M and then Bright. Let's see if this works. I'm going to press enter, and once again, no errors. If I list what I have here, you can see there is no file called Bright again. Now, what if you want to remove a folder which has something inside of it? For example, the folder A System Engineering DevOps has something inside of it. So I'm going to it out. So you can see that folder has another folder inside of it. And I want to remove this folder completely. So how do I do that? After moving one step backward in my directory, which is the cd space dot dot command, I'm going to try to remove this folder that already has error it's going to give me. So using this arrow mdir arrow command and then the name of the folder gave me an error. It says remove directory, that is arrow mdir arrow command failed to remove this directory here because the directory is not empty. So this is how you can read error messages on the terminal. First, arrow mdir arrow, yeah, that is remove directory. This is the command we used. The error is that it failed to remove this directory we wanted to remove here because the directory is not empty. So how do we remove a directory that is not empty, the shell? Well, we do that by typing arrow m hyphen arrow and then the name. Remove the directory even though it's not empty. It's going to remove this directory and remove all the contents of this directory. So I'll press enter now and you can see there was no error message. If I list what I have now, you can see that that directory, we just removed it. There were two before and one has already gone out. So if you want to remove a directory that is not empty, how to do that is simple. Use the arrow m command and then hyphen arrow. So we've looked at a couple of commands so far, like how to create a directory, how to create a file, how to list content of your directories. We've also seen how to clear your terminal. And let's look at other things. For example, how to copy a file. So we are going to create files now using what we've learned so far, the commands we've learned so far, and then we are going to be able to copy the file. So for example, we want to copy the file hello into another file. Now the command to copy a file is cp. So I just type cp here now and look, something is happening. You can see that our screen is so filled up and now I have to scroll down to be able to see my last command. So first, what I want to do is to clear the screen. Now I can copy. Now I want to copy the file called hello and I want to paste that file into hello2. Now let's see if this works. When I press enter, you see that there is no error whatsoever. So what just happened? Let us list out what we have to see what just happened now. You can see I have hello here and then I have hello2. So all the files that were inside hello are still in hello 2. So it's created a copy of the files in hello and puts it in a new file called hello 2. So hello 2 did not exist first in our among our files. But using this command, copy hello to hello 2, it did two things. One, it created a file called hello 2, and then it transferred all the contents of hello into hello 2. So this command cp is actually very, very powerful. Now, to explain this point, let me copy another file. Let me copy the file called tutorial and put it into a new file called tutorial2. When I press enter and list out my new files, you can see we have tutorial here and then tutorial2. So at any time you want to copy a file, you simply use the command cp to copy the file and then paste it into another file. Now, let's say we want to copy this file called hello and paste it in a directory, not a file. So you want to copy this file called hello2 and then paste it in a directory. So let's say the name of the directory we want to paste it in is right. And then the name of the file you want to copy is hello2. How do you go about this? Well, spend like 1 or 2 minutes trying to do this. And after that, come back, see how I do it. Now, all we are going to do is to cp hello2 space, the name of the directory is bright, and then we add this / sign to indicate that bright is a directory, and then press enter. So we see we have no errors here. Now let's check if the file we copied to bright directory actually entered. So we are going to list what we have. You can see hello2 is here. You can see bright is here. So we are going to cd into the directory called bright now, and then list out things. So when we list out what we have in bright, you can see the file hello2 that we copied from here has actually entered into this directory. So that is how to copy a file into a directory. Now, apart from copying files, there are other things we can do, like to rename the files. And so, how do we rename a file? That is the next question. Let's see how we do that now. Renaming a file brings us to this command called mv. Now, this command has multiple functions, and one of them is to rename a file. So for example, we want to rename the file hello2 to hello3. So all we have to do is type hello2 space hello3. So what this command is going to do, this mv command, is to change hello2 to hello3. Let's check if this works. You see we have no errors, and so let's list out what we have. So you can see here, rather than having hello2, what we have here now is hello3 inside our bright folder. Now, assuming we want to rename the file tutorial, which is not inside our bright folder, but we want to rename it, how do we go about that? We could simply cd backward here. And so we are out of the bright folder. And then we can list what we have now to ensure that we have tutorial here. So I want to change this name tutorial 2 to tutorial 4. it's the same process. Now we are going to MV here. So what this command is going to do is to change the tutorial name to tutorial 4. We can press enter, and then if we list out what we have, you can see we have hello 2, tutorial 2, and then tutorial 4. So we do not have tutorial again. Instead, we have tutorial 4. What's the difference between this MV command and the CP command? So this is renaming our files. It's not creating a duplicate. But you see, when we copied the file using CP command, it left the original hello file here and then created a new file called hello2. So this is the major difference between the copy command and the renaming command. So I'm going to clear my terminal once again, and what are some other things we can do? Now we can also move our files. Remember, I said the MV command has a lot of functions, and one of those functions is to help us move our files. So let's see how to move our files using the MV command. All right, so to be able to move a file using the MV command, it's almost as similar as copying a file using the MV command. For example, this is the ls command here. So we've listed out everything we have. And then we have 2 folders. So we want to move this hello file to the right folder. We are going to simply use mv hello, then right next. We press enter. You see we have no errors whatsoever. Now if I list what I have here, you can see I do not have hello here anymore. Rather, I have only hello 2, tutorial 2, and then tutorial 4. So what this means is that, well, let's check what it means first. So I'm going to cd into Bright. And then if I list what I have in Bright, you can see I have the hello file now inside Bright. So using this command, mv, the name of the file, and then the name of the folder, it has helped me to move this hello file into the Bright folder. So what's the difference between moving and copying a file? To copy a file, to rename a file rather, what's the difference between moving a file and then renaming a file? So if I do hello 2 here and then hello 3, this is going to rename hello 2 from, this is going to change the name hello 2 to hello 3. That is because there is no file called hello 3 here. So if I do this, it's going to press enter. And then when I list, you are not going to see hello 2, you will see hello 3 now. But now that there's a file called hello 3, if I try to move hello 3 into tutorial 2, let's see. Now, this command now, hello 3, I'm trying to rename it to tutorial 2. Let's see what will happen. You can see it did not rename. Instead, it's moved the files from hello 3. It's moved all the files from hello 3 into tutorial 3, into tutorial 2. So we do not have hello 3 here again. We only have tutorial 2. So mv command can help us to rename a file and to move it. The principle is, in renaming a file, the file we are renaming it to must not exist, then it would rename. But if the file exists, it would not rename the file, but rather it would move the file. I hope this explanation is clear enough. If it's not, you want to do well to check the official documentary of Linux and then the shell navigation, or you could do a quick Google search to see what information you could get more. So we've talked about a couple of things. Let's do a quick recap on what we've talked about so far. We've talked about how to list our files using the ls command. Next up, we talk about how to create a file using the touch command. And then we talk about how to clear our terminal. We've also talked about how to make a directory, how to remove a directory, how to remove a non-empty directory. We've also talked about how to copy a file, how to move a file, and how to rename a file. So to move a file and to rename a file, once again, use the same commands. But if the file we are renaming to already exists, then it's going to move the file. For us to be able to rename a file, then the file we are renaming to must not be in existence already. Now, let's look at how to delete a file. We've talked about how to delete a directory, and we talked about how to delete a file too, and that is simply using the rm command. So if I want to delete a file, all I have to do is use the rm command. So let me delete the file called tutorial4, rm, press enter, and it's deleted. When I list, you see I have no file called tutorial4 again, but rather I have only tutorial2. So let me go ahead and delete this other directory, system engineering DevOps. So it's a directory that is not empty. So to delete it, I'm going to use the rm-arrow and then press enter. Then when I list, you can see I have only one directory, bright, and then one file called 2. So we basically looked at all the interesting and fundamental concepts in the shell to get you started. Now we can write into a file, and we can also read the contents of a file. So for example, let me list what I have here. We have a file called tutorial2, and I want to see what is inside tutorial2. Now, how am I going to be able to see what is written inside tutorial2? Let's look at the command for that. So to be able to read the content of tutorial2, or to open the content of tutorial2 using our terminal, we use the cat command, the cat command. I'm going to cat here and then tutorial2. If I press enter, you can see I have 3 lines of writings inside my file called tutorial2. The first line says hello man, the second line said I'm learning Emacs, then the third line says hello team. This is the contents of tutorial 2. So once again, to be able to access the contents of tutorial of any file, we use the cat command. To be able to write into a file. Now, this is about reading the content of a file. But I want to write something into a file. So for example, I create a file. So let me create a file now called write. Okay, I already have a folder called write. So let me create a file called tutorial1. And then, so we have tutorial1 here. Now, what I want to do is to write into tutorial1. How do I go about that? I use a command called echo. Yes, this is how to do it. So I'm going to echo some things now. So hello and 1. So what have we just done? Using this command called echo, we are able to write into a file called tutorial1. Now, what are we writing into that file? In between what we are writing is what we see here, this hello. So in between these single quotes, this whatever we write in between these single quotes is going to be written in this file called tutorial1. Now let's press enter and try to read the files of tutorial. And you can see we have just one line, which is hello. So I can write a lot of things now using the echo command. So I can echo and then write, hey man, how are you? And I go to tutorial1 and press enter. Now let's read what we have in tutorial1. You can see we have, hey man, how are you? So we can use the echo command here to write different things in our files. Of course, you could also decide to use the text editor VI to also write things into your files. If you want to know how to do that, check my video on VI. You could also use the text editor called Emacs to write things into your file. I also have a video on Emacs. You want to do well to check it out to know how to use this text editor to write contents in your file. But basically, we can use Echo to write outlines in our files. So the basics of shell, the basics of the terminal, how to use the shell is what we've just covered now. Now there are a long list of commands, and once again, you can know what each specific command do by typing the man, then the name of the command. So if I want to know the meaning of ls or what the command ls does, all I have to do is write out man and then ls, press enter, and then we can see what it does here. You can see the description, you can see the name, list directory contents, the description, list information about the files, and then we can see various options that we have with ls, for example lsa, ls all, and all of that. So this is the basics of shell. This is how to get you started with shell. If you've known this, you can successfully navigate your way through the shell. So once again, I've listed out all the content of my directory. We've done a lot of things. We've created repositories, we've deleted, we've copied files, we've moved files, we've write into files, we've read the content of files, all using our shell. So this is a very powerful resource in your hands, the shell, and you want to use it. Is there any part of this video that is not so clear? Do well to drop a comment below and I will surely explain it. Is there any other thing you want me to talk about the shell? Please also comment below and I'll create videos about what you want. Thank you so much for being here. So this is how to navigate the shell. If you came here as a complete beginner, after watching this video, you would surely know how to navigate your shell. Thank you once again, and until the next video, it's a goodbye.